Let's begin. The threats are: knight takes pawn, knight takes pawn, queen takes knight, queen takes pawn. There are no checks in this position. The best move in puzzle position is knight takes pawn, pawn takes knight, queen takes pawn, check, king to d7, queen takes rook. Let's see the next puzzle. Puzzle position vulnerabilities are: knight takes pawn, rook takes bishop. Here are checks in puzzle position. Knight to e7, check. Knight to f6, check. The answer is rook takes bishop, pawn takes rook, knight to f6, check, pawn takes knight, queen takes queen. Another one. Threats in this position are: queen takes pawn, check, rook takes pawn, check. Here are checks in puzzle position. Queen takes pawn, check, rook takes pawn, check. The answer is rook to d1, rook takes rook, queen to e4, queen takes pawn, queen takes queen. Next, the threats are: bishop takes pawn, check, rook takes rook, check. The checks are: bishop takes pawn, check, rook takes rook, check. Solution to the puzzle is: rook takes rook, check, rook takes rook, bishop to c7, rook to c8, bishop takes knight. Let's see the next puzzle. Threats in puzzle position are: bishop takes bishop. There are no checks in this position. The answer is g6, bishop takes bishop, queen takes bishop, queen to d1, queen takes rook. One more. Let us look at threats in puzzle position. Rook takes rook, rook takes pawn, queen takes pawn, queen takes pawn, knight takes pawn, bishop takes pawn. Here are the checks. Rook to e8, check, queen to f7, check, queen to e8, check. The puzzle is solved using rook takes rook. Let's continue. Puzzle position vulnerabilities are: queen takes pawn, queen takes pawn, queen takes knight. Checks in puzzle position are: queen to c1, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Rook to d8, queen to a3, check, king to e8. Let's see the next puzzle. Threats in puzzle position are: queen takes pawn. Checks in puzzle position are: queen to h5, check. Solution to the puzzle is: queen to h5, check, king to f8, knight to g6, check, pawn takes knight, queen takes rook, check. Let's see the next puzzle. Here are threats in puzzle position. Knight takes pawn, bishop takes queen, bishop takes pawn, queen takes bishop, queen takes pawn, queen takes pawn, queen takes pawn, check. Here are the checks. Queen takes pawn, check. The best move in puzzle position is queen to e6, queen takes bishop, queen takes queen. Let's continue. The threats are: pawn takes knight, pawn takes pawn, queen takes knight, queen takes pawn, check, queen takes bishop, queen takes pawn. The checks are: queen takes pawn, check. The best move in puzzle position is queen takes knight. One more. Threats in puzzle position are: rook takes rook, check, rook takes pawn, knight takes bishop, knight takes pawn. Let us look at checks in puzzle position. Rook to a8, check, rook takes rook, check, knight to b6, check, knight to b6, check, knight to d6, check. The puzzle is solved using knight to b6, check, king to d8, rook to a8, check, rook to c8, rook takes rook, checkmate. Next, the threats are: there are no threats in this position. There are no checks in this position. Solution to the puzzle is: bishop to c3, bishop takes pawn, bishop takes bishop. Let us go to the next puzzle. Threats in puzzle position are: rook takes knight, queen takes pawn, check, queen takes knight, check. Here are checks in puzzle position. Queen takes pawn, check, queen to h4, check, queen takes knight, check. The puzzle is solved using queen to h4, check, king to g2, queen to h3, checkmate. Next puzzle. The threats are: queen takes rook, queen takes pawn, check, queen takes bishop, check, bishop takes pawn, Rook takes bishop. Here are the checks. Queen to g8, check. Queen takes pawn, check. Queen takes bishop, check. Solution to the puzzle is queen takes bishop, check. King takes queen. Bishop to e5, check. King to f7. Rook to f1, check. Queen to f6. Rook takes queen, check. Another puzzle. Threats in this position are queen takes pawn. Let us look at checks in puzzle position. Queen to f8, check. Queen to g8, check. Queen to h8, check. Queen to e5, check. Queen to b2, check. The answer is queen to e5, check. King to g8. Queen takes bishop. Let us go to the next puzzle. Here are threats in puzzle position. Rook takes pawn. Pawn takes bishop. Queen takes rook, check. Queen takes bishop, check. Here are checks in puzzle position. Queen to g2, check. Queen takes rook, check. Queen to e4, check. Queen takes bishop, check. The puzzle is solved using queen takes bishop, check. Queen takes queen. Pawn takes queen. Another puzzle. Threats in puzzle position are pawn takes bishop. There are no checks in this position. Solution to the puzzle is pawn takes bishop. Next, threats in puzzle position are queen takes pawn. Bishop takes bishop. Let us look at checks in puzzle position. Knight to e3, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Bishop takes bishop. Pawn takes bishop. Knight to e3, check. Pawn takes knight. Queen takes bishop, check. Let's continue. Let us look at threats in puzzle position. There are no threats in this position. There are no checks in this position. Solution to the puzzle is king to f3. b2. King takes pawn. One more. Here are the threats. There are no threats in this position. There are no checks in this position. The puzzle is solved using king to h2. Rook to a8. Rook to c8, check. Queen to d8. Rook takes queen, check. Next puzzle. The threats are rook takes pawn. Rook takes pawn. The checks are rook to f6, check. Rook to d5, check. Rook to d5, check. Rook to f4, check. g4, check. The answer is g4, check. King to e5. f4, checkmate. One more. Threats in this position are pawn takes pawn. Knight takes pawn, check. Here are checks in puzzle position. c5, check. Knight to b5, check. Knight takes pawn, check. Answer to this puzzle is pawn takes pawn. Pawn takes pawn. Knight to b5, check. Knight takes knight. Pawn takes knight. King to c5. a4. Let's continue. Threats in this position are bishop takes pawn, check. Bishop takes queen. Queen takes pawn, check. Here are checks in puzzle position. Bishop takes pawn, check. Queen takes pawn, check. Answer to this puzzle is bishop takes queen. Bishop takes bishop. Rook to g1. Let's continue. Threats in puzzle position are bishop takes pawn. Queen takes knight. Queen takes bishop. Queen takes pawn. There are no checks in this position. Here is the solution to the puzzle. c4. Another puzzle. Threats in puzzle position are queen takes rook. Queen takes pawn. Queen takes knight. Queen takes pawn. Bishop takes pawn, check. Bishop takes rook. Rook takes bishop. Checks in this position are queen to e8, check. Bishop takes pawn, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Bishop takes rook. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.